Brian Canham, welcome back to noise11.com. When I get to interview you about albums, those interviews
Yeah,
tend to be like years apart, even closer to almost a decade apart. And here we are, two
decades. Yeah,
interviews in
yeah,
1 year.
yeah. I know what's going on.
The 1990, the lost album demos. It's quite remarkable that you would have all of this sitting aside for 30 years and not do anything with it. Why?
I don't. The funniest thing is this: now looking back and realizing that album has been following me around for the last 30 years, and I didn't even know I had it. Like, it's been right under my nose. The thing is I wasn't. I might have been good with the music, but I wasn't so good with the labeling and the archiving. So when I gave this tape to management many years ago, I'm not naming anybody in particular, but it was just, the management office. And they said, and I said to them, can you duplicate it for me? Because it's my only copy. Like, I shouldn't have given them my only copy in the first place, but, you get excited when somebody says, oh, so-and-so was keen to, hear new material. So I don't know if they duplicated. I don't think they did, because maybe there'd be a few copies kicking around, but it just vanished, like it probably got bumped off the edge of the desk and in the bin. So that was the end of that. And so I didn't know that I backed it up, but I as it turns out, I did back it up, but I didn't label it very well. I just hastily backed it up, and it just said master scribbled on it, but so did about another 100 tapes. So wasn't really indicative of what was on the tape. And, cassette tapes, they're this big, and you only got so much room to write on them, and you always lose the cover. Everyone loses the cardboard bit, and you end up just with the tape in that plastic case. So, when we found it, when we found the box of tapes, I had to then go, well, this is going to be a pretty laborious job to go through all these tapes. They're all old. I knew they were old. They were 30, 40 years old, all of the tapes. And I had to hook up an old tape deck. I didn't even have a cassette player anymore. I'd gotten rid of all that stuff. So I bought this lovely old Pioneer tape deck. Now, it looked nice. It was nice and shiny. So I figured it was good. I didn't clean the heads. I didn't check that it was running properly or anything. I just chucked the cassettes in and off I went. And so far it was good. I was playing away and going through a few days worth of playing, maybe even weeks. And then when it was so random. I just came across one and started playing it. I was just doing, multitasking. And all of a sudden I hear this song, Just Your Day. And I went, hang on, this is the first song off the album. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I was just freaking out. And I'm like thinking, what do I do? Do I quickly write down the lyrics in case it disappears again? Or do I write down the chord progressions? And so I fast forward and listen through. And then the next one, Destiny and You Were There. All these songs are coming up. So I just absolutely couldn't believe it. And Raquel, she just come running into the room and what are these songs? It sounds fantastic, And so we realised what it was. And she's more interested in saying, you have to release it. It's got to go out. And I'm saying, well, I've got to re-record it all. These are the demos and I'll have to, they'll take me another 30 years. So, but she's going, no, as is. And I'm thinking, what do you mean as is? They're my demos. So fortunately, they're pretty good. I produced them at a fairly high level, but they're just not finished as I would finish them, but they sound finished to most people because it's just little bits of levels here and there and bits and pieces. But while we were talking about all this, the tape started rewinding, must have hit the end and auto rewind. It started rewinding and we're sort of chatting away. And then I look across at the tape deck and one of the spools isn't rewinding. One is and one isn't. That's not a good look. So I quickly just hit the stop button and sort of ejected it, which probably wasn't such a good idea because it nearly came out. And then I sort of grabbed it and then I went, oh my God, there's about like a meter of tape in the machine. It just gobbled it up. And so we're sort of pulling it out, sweating it out, like Rack's gone in like a shock, just freaking out because I said, I found it and then maybe I haven't. But we managed, the good old pen method, that came in handy after all those years. Yeah, so we're spooling it back in. Yeah, I know. People wouldn't know what you're talking about. I just need a pen or a pencil. What are you going to do? Take notes? No, you'll see.
I have to put an image up so people understand what we're talking about here.
That's right. Yeah, we'll find a Google Images. We'll get something. But yeah, so we got it in, and ironically, we didn't even no tears, no creases. It just came out perfectly. And then when it came out, then also, I don't know if you know, when you pull cassette out, it has a habit of just completely coiling up. So we got it out. That was one stage, and then it completely coiled up, and then we had to sort of like bit by bit hold it so it wouldn't turn inside the cassette. I tell you, it wasn't a good day, but it was a good day that we found it. But it was just, we were freaking out, but we managed to get it all back in. And the first thing we did is we're getting this digitized professionally, restored, mastered again, and that was it. It was done.
Were the songs already sequenced, or was this just in random order?
They were close to that order. There was a couple that were sort of tacked on. I think they must have once been on a different tape, and they were added on to that master tape. So close to that order. I think I found nearly the first three in a row like that, and then the next were give or take a song.
Yeah, so back in the day, you actually went to the trouble of putting them in some sort of logical order for an album.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the order I wrote them in or the order I mixed them in or something, but it was nearly that, yeah. Because I did think about it, and then I thought, oh, well, this just has to be the first song because that's how it goes. I just, and plus there's a little bit of variation stylistically within these songs, because even though I'd written the bulk of it for Pseudo Echo's fourth album, when I was surprised with the band splitting up, then it sort of automatically shifted to, well, this could be a solo project. So some of them were then kind of produced with more of the idea of maybe not being Pseudo Echo, but still sounding that way. So yeah, it was sort of iffy whether it was going to be the Pseudo Echo album or the Brian Canham album, but turns out it's the Pseudo Echo album.
As a Pseudo Echo album, is there a lineup to this record, or is it you by yourself, or is it you with studio musicians?
Oh no, the album's just me. Yeah, I played everything and sung everything and did the whole lot, because that's how I would do my demos, and then I would submit them to the guys and any producers who were up for consideration, and record company. Everyone would then have their two bits and say what they wanted to do and who was going to play what or whatever. But yeah, generally, and even of late, most of the recordings I would play most instruments myself, just because it's how I intended it, with the way I wrote it. So, that if anything would have been redone, it would have been just replicated anyway.
They're great songs, and they're strong songs, 9 tracks that make up this lost album. Had you ever performed any of these songs live back in the day?
No, none of them. No, because I wrote them during probably the touring of the third album, Race. I probably wrote them off the back of that, and then we kind of stopped touring. We were promoting that album, and then that was the end of it. So they didn't get to be performed ever.
Are there plans to perform them?
We'll perform some of them in the next tour, and then possibly the next tour after that we'll perform a lot of them maybe. But there's a lot of work, and with the lockdown restrictions, it's been so hard. Half the band's interstate, so there's only so much you can do rehearsing with Zooms and things. So it's been really tricky. But we've got a few in there to showcase in various ways.
Because that tour is coming up on July 9. It must be a real concern for, I guess, any touring artist at the moment. You just don't know what next week has in store when you put a schedule together at the moment.
And it's already happened a couple of times already. We've had things moved and then moved again, and then it sort of gets to a point where you just go, well, how do we keep doing this? Because it's expensive to do it too. You've got, there are things that are already booked and paid for and done, and you can only keep moving things around so much. But we're pretty confident this time this one will come through.
So 1990, the lost album demos, Pseudo Echo. Brian, always a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure, Paul. Always.